the important part is explaining to that new employee the why, why it's important to us, what we do, how we do it, and why we do it.
But make sure that communication stays open.
Everybody's excited about the new job, what they can add, that they can put their thumbprint on the business. I'm going to schedule a meeting right now, 2 hours long, me and you, and we're going to go through your ideas.
That's key, to have a culture of feedback and communication, and you do have to strike that balance.
I like that we're kind of having this conversation about onboarding and just new employees and kind of the do's and don'ts.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Bug Bucks podcast. I'm Alan Draper. And as always, I have my main man, Eric, here with me. What's going on, Eric?
Hey, Alan. Not too much. Things have been good so far this prep season. My team and I just finished kind of this leadership development course that we were doing. So I'm kind of riding this clarity high, which feels really good. So yeah, man, I'm stoked for today's episode and feeling good.
Awesome. I just got back into town, and I'm not going to give too many details about where I was because it was pest related, but I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, and I don't know when this episode's going to be released. But really cool experience, and we'll be able to chat about it at some point on the show. And
looking forward to it.
Just some really cool insight about the industry. So,
awesome.
For our listener, make sure you go to our Facebook group, BUG There's over 3,100 PCOs in there. And we're just talking about the pest biz. We're giving away some equipment and some products and things like that. We have a couple of sponsors in there, and make sure that you join. There's just great information, great conversations, a great platform to ask some questions about how to level up your PCC. So once again, that's Bug Bucks on Facebook, BUG. Today, I'd like to welcome to the show Read Flake. Read's a buddy of mine, and he's a highly accomplished entrepreneur, business owner, and he's an e-commerce professional also. After a distinguished 22-year corporate career in travel and retail, Read opened an Assisting Hand senior care franchise in the Houston area. He founded Green Country Pest Control in Houston, and he's the co-owner and founder of Pest SOS. He's also the co-founder and co-owner of Bug Police Pest Control, which is in the Phoenix area. And he's also the father of 6 kids and grandfather of 4. That's awesome. Welcome to the show, Reed.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I don't get to interview very many grandpas.
Yeah, I'm kind of the OG, but yeah, well, I mean, in my defense, I'm kind of a young grandpa, so, but I love it. I'm telling you, I know you have kids, but wait till you have grandkids. It's even better in a lot of ways.
Well, they say you either have your 20s or your 40s, right? So you had your 40s, yeah. I had my 20s.
There you go.
I have really young kids, and I'm over 40, so.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, your day is coming.
My oldest is 10, and my wife's already talking about grandkids, and I'm like, hey, let's pump the brakes on that one.
Yeah, you got a little time till that happens, but yeah, it's been fun. But that's one of the things I love about being in pest control is I still have 2 teenagers at home, and most of my kids have worked in the business, and either teching or selling or working in the office. And
how old are your kids?
So my oldest are in their 20s, and I've 2 married kids, hence the grandkids, and then one son on a mission and a daughter that's single, and then the two at home, 2 teenagers at home in high school. So
what was that like, having children work for the pest control operation?
It's been great. And we have my son's coming home from his mission. He's going to work this summer, and my other son, who's a senior, he'll be doing technician work. And I enjoy it because you can help their development and challenge them a little bit. There's part of me that wants them to have a quote unquote non-family job or a real job so that they learn that side of it too. But but I put them in that situation. So when they're a technician, they're reporting to my tech manager, not to me, and they don't get special treatment, you know. And it's like, hey, work hard. I hope you don't lose your job. You know, he's allowed to fire you if you if you mess up. So so they do get that full experience. And but it's also cool because at the end of the day, we have things to talk about, and it, you know, as an owner, it helps me because I get to hear a few things and get a little insight into the other side of it. And they make money, get good life experience, and I have some reliable employees that I have a little bit more say over. So it works out great.
For sure. Do you think any of them will end up in the pest control industry?
I don't know. You know, we've talked about that. Is this going to be a family business that gets passed down, or you know, like a lot of owners sell it someday, and just so TBD on that one.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
My business partners, Jake and Jana Klaus. They've got 4 kids, and their 2 oldest are both boys. And I keep thinking that they're going to want to get into the business somehow at some point. You know, they're super smart, detail oriented, and they have gone out on ride-alongs with Jake a bunch already. They've been in crawl spaces, and they always take selfies together and stuff. And I always think it's kind of cool. We've talked about this before when it comes to having family in the business, but just being able to provide an opportunity for the people that you care about to get professional experience and make money, you know, it's a great opportunity. So that's awesome. You got some kids that have been in and out of the business already.
Yeah, my 3 oldest daughters all did door to door for at least one summer, and they are out of the business. They're like, that was horrible. I'm never doing that again. But you know, at least they had the experience. It's
really cool to get for these kids to get these baseline experiences, these starter jobs, the working at the McDonald's, or, you know, working at the mall, or the, you know, Starbucks or whatever, right? I think it's great for them to have something to compare it to.
Yes.
And I think they learn a lot also, but a lot of learning what we want to do, I think, in life is learning what we don't want to do. Trying something, be like, well, I don't know if that's the right fit for me, and just kind of keeping that moving. So
sure,
I think it would be really hard if, you know, and my sons always say, so my 8-year-old, the other day, I asked him what he wants to do, you know, for work. And he said, well, first on my list is be a professional baseball player. And I'm like, oh, you've got this, man. You can do that. He's like, if that doesn't work, what was it? I think it was like a police officer or fireman. And then he's like, if that doesn't work, I'm going to work for you.
Oh, you're 3rd though. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Astronaut, rock star, you know, whatever. But then, you know, great.
I mean, that's an interesting list, right? He goes from professional baseball player, significant drop down to, at least in terms of income, to fireman, policeman, and then bug guy. I love telling people I'm a bug guy. I don't know why. I love this industry, and I think
you kind of get a reaction. And I do think one thing about, you mentioned, you know, McDonald's or pest control or whatever, kind of a, you know, entry level type jobs. The other thing it does is it can motivate kids to get an education, you know, honestly. And and there's nothing wrong with those jobs, and some people do them their whole life, and that's great. But if that's not what you want to do, then you say, well, if you want to do something different and maybe it's higher level management type stuff, then you better get good grades, you better go to college, you better study, you better learn about business, you better, you know, and that's, you know, if that's the path you want to go, then you know, you appreciate what you've got, but you need to have some goals. So that's another benefit.
It would be hard to be neutral with a child that worked for the company. I feel like I would either be too hard on them or too soft or lenient. How do you strike that balance? What have you learned to like help you, approach that?
No, that's a good question. And you know, you are, of course, you love your children, and you're not going to be too harsh on them, but you do want them to be to have the full experience. And so, again, I mentioned I don't have them report to me directly. They're just another employee. And I tell the manager, I'm like, look, it may be my son, but I want you to treat him like every other tech. And if he's not doing a good job, you tell him, or tell me if you need me to get involved, but no special treatment, just this is a real job. And it's worked pretty well. It's worked well. And you have to be careful not to have nepotism, because it's still, oh, this is the boss's kid. You can't really hide that fact.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that the owner's kids are going to be treated differently just because they're the owner's kids, right? People are going to look at them and say, oh, that's favoritism. They're the ones that, get treated better, the nicer trucks, nicer equipment, whatever. What do you
some
do?
of that's unavoidable, but it's just, you just do your best with it.
Yeah, for sure. What do you do if your kids have thoughts about the business? What do you say, hey, that's really not my area, you need to speak with your direct report, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, I mean, I welcome feedback from not just my kids, but any employees. And so discuss it with them, find out, why they have that thought or that feedback. And I have to make a determination if there's something valid there, or if it's, if it's not, then, but if it is, yeah, go to the appropriate person in the company, say, what do you think about this? Discuss it. And if it's a good idea, we'll do it.
I think that's a great business philosophy, because, I've always felt like good ideas can come from anywhere in the business,
Absolutely.
And, whether it's one of your kids that's in the business, and you want to hear about what they're thinking about, what they have to say, and kind of evaluating how the job is. Some of the best and most engaging projects that we've ever worked on in our business have come from just frontline, brand new colleagues, people that just came in the door and they're like, hey, like, do you guys ever do something like this? We think it'd be really cool. And I'm like, that sounds awesome. Let's roll with it. Right. Or,
yeah,
any kind of policy or procedure change, good ideas can come from anybody.
And maybe sometimes, especially from people that haven't been in the business, they've got this fresh set of eyes and don't have these preconceived notions. Oh, that'll never work, or whatever. Why don't you try this? Oh, well, gee, I never thought about it. Maybe we should. Maybe there's something there. So
yeah. So right after we started our branch in Detroit, so we're brand new. First summer, it's probably the third tech that we hired, and he came over from Oregon, I believe. Guy named John. I really like him still to this day. He hasn't been with Proof for a few years now. Changed industries, but I remember his first week or couple of weeks, and he's a very outgoing social guy, and he was coming at me with all these ideas. And I had this startup. I was trying to hire another 3 or 4 technicians and all this stuff going on, and I approached his ideas and his communication with me in the completely wrong way, because I got to the point where I was like, oh, okay, yeah, John, yeah, okay, yeah, no, good idea, and then I got to the point where I'm like, John, chill. So now what happens when I bring somebody on, whether it's from somebody from a different company or somebody that's outside of the industry, I let them know, hey, when you start with a new company, like you're starting with Proof, it's like walking into a bakery. When you walk into the bakery, you're going to immediately notice the smell of bread. After a while, if you're there long enough, 30, 45 minutes, you're not going to notice it anymore, right? Homeostasis. We get to this point where our body just adapts to our surroundings. And it's the same when somebody starts with your company. They come in with all these ideas, and because they can see the differences, they see those differences and they're like, hey, this is what I did in my other company. And if you don't approach it the right way, you are going to just stomp all over and extinguish this desire for people to give you feedback. So, but it can also be overwhelming. Not everybody's like John, but everybody's excited about the new job, what they can add, that they can put their thumbprint on the business. And so what I do when we have new manager hires, I tell this story that I just told about John. And I say, your ideas are really, really important to us. We probably are not going to be able to act on all of them right away, but I don't want you to forget them. So do this. Yeah. If it's something that you feel is relatively urgent, affects any of our core values directly, or has something to do with safety, you let somebody know immediately. If it's something more long-term, which the longer term ideas I think are the more important ones anyway, write them down. Don't forget them, because after a while, you're not going to smell bread anymore. So that first 6 months, even shorter than that, probably 3 months, 90 days, are when people that we bring on are going to have their best ideas. And we have to encourage this culture of feedback while understanding and making sure we communicate with our people this idea that, hey, you can really overwhelm me if you come in here with 30, 40 plus ideas a week. Because we can't do it all right now, but you have my word, like write it down. We are going to have a discussion, especially if they're coming in between April and end of August, September. Hey, those are great things. If it doesn't touch on one of these areas, let's table that until mid-September. I'm going to schedule a meeting right now, 2 hours long, me and you, and we're going to go through your ideas.
Yeah, I think that, and you mentioned the word culture. I think that's key, to have a culture of feedback and communication. Because, if you're autocratic about it, you're just like, well, I'm the boss, what I say goes. Pretty soon people will shut down. I mean, they might be happy to keep working and collect a paycheck, but they're not going to stick their neck out. They're not going to give you feedback. If they see something, well, he's not going to do anything anyway, I'm not going to bother him about it, and you do have to strike that balance. At the same time, you can't have just a democracy, where it's like anything goes, and you have to have that kind of that control to a certain extent, but make sure that communication stays open. So I like that bread analogy, though. That's good. We have a couple new employees, so I think I'm going to talk to them today before before they stop smelling the bread.
Yeah.
I a little bit of a plug for Simon Sinek here. When we have new employees and we're going through the onboarding training, and especially if they have any kind of pest control experience or just general customer service experience or even tech experience, things are going to be a little bit different how we do it than versus somebody else. I mean, the general tenets are the same, but there's some specialized things that we do. And as a leader or somebody that's kind of in a training position, I think it's sometimes kind of tempting that when someone says, oh, well, we used to do it like this at our last job, or why do we do it this way? Or that's weird. Like, this is different than what I used to do. It's tempting to just kind of squash that and say, well, this is how we do it, so this is the way it's done. Right. Mm-hmm. And I want to encourage, other trainers who might be listening and just other PCOs, when we talk to our new onboarding employees, we kind of follow again, Simon Sinek plug here, what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. And, if you want to go from the why, how, what, that's kind of how Simon Sinek recommends you do it. Mm-hmm. But, when we're talking about what we do and how we do it, the important part is explaining to that new employee the why, why it's important to us, why it fits our company vision, why it's important for the customer experience, all those things. And I think it also encourages them to ask questions. If something's going on and we say, hey, this is when you call back customers and this is how you follow this procedure. If in their mind, they're thinking, man, I don't know why that's important, I want them to ask me and say, hey, can you help me understand why we're doing this? Because the last thing I want to do is have an employee just agree to something blindly, and then they get about 25% through their task and they're just not feeling it. And then they're not bought in because they don't understand the philosophy behind it. So I like that we're kind of having this conversation about onboarding and just new employees and kind of the do's and don'ts.
Absolutely. No, that's right on having that. It's kind of interesting. What I was thinking about is that myself was probably different than a lot of the pest control owners because I didn't have any experience in the industry when I started. Most people have either came up as a tech or through door to door or worked for another pest control company. And so that might be something so I had that experience of looking at everything with fresh set of eyes. And maybe I can just talk a little bit about that, since Alan kind of introduced at the beginning. I was a corporate guy. I just had a job, working downtown Houston, and downtown Chicago, for the big airlines. I had an MBA, and it was great. It was, good career and making good money, and all that. But it was a grind. I mean, commuting every day, and all that time away from the family. And after 20 years of that, I was like, I always had the entrepreneurial itch. And so it was like, okay, well then what is it going to be, and how do I make that transition? And our kids were a little older. Like, we didn't have any at home. They were still in school, but my wife's an RN. So I thought, well, okay, well, she has a background in medical. So we said, let's start a franchise, Assisting Hands, where we take care of seniors and in their homes. And I said, great, but if I'm actually going to quit my job and give up, that income, and then we need more than that. Like, that's not going to be enough. So if there's anything crazier than starting one business, it's starting two businesses simultaneously. But I had relatives in pest control in business, and Eric, you actually know one of my cousins, Joel Flake, who with Gemtech, and I have
Yep.
other cousins, Christensen's, the Six Brothers Pest Control, and so I reached out to him and I said, hey, how hard is it to start a pest control company? And never ask that question unless you want to. But
well, when you ask that question, it's actually a really good question. Not to get like a good answer, but to vet out the person that you're asking. Because if you ask that question to somebody that really knows what they're talking about, they're going to be like, it's really, really, really hard.
Yes.
If it's somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about, they'll be like, oh yeah, no problem. You can get it set up in a week or two.
Right. Yeah, just grab a truck and start spraying stuff. It's as easy. Yeah. But no, I can't, it's not something that I ever said, oh, when I'm like your son, when you don't think I'm going to grow up and do pest control unless your family's already in the business. It's not something I never thought about, but I thought, well, I have these connections, these people that are willing to help me get set up. I know I can go to them for advice, and they were great. They helped me. Okay, do this for insurance. This is what you need to be careful of. So I just went for it. And my wife and I were a little scared because when you have a corporate job, you get that paycheck every 2 weeks. You get those nice corporate benefits, all that good health care and all the other stuff. And to give that up for we said, okay, well, and we debated. I'm more risk taking. She's more risk averse. And so kind of had to work with her. And it was like, look, we've saved up some money. We have our savings. We have enough to live on for 1 year. Let's just give it 1 year. Worst case scenario, we completely fail. We lose that savings, and we both get jobs, and we're fine. We're not going to starve. We're employable. RNs, she gets job offers without even trying. I had pretty good resume, so it's like, we'll be fine. And once I convinced her of that, like, that's the worst case scenario. Best case is that it works out great, and we keep going, and so thankfully we and I said, for me, we have to try it. It's that cliche about it's better to have tried and failed than never to have tried at all. And I said, even if we fail after a year, at least the rest of my life, I'll know that, okay, well, I tried it. I won't ever say what if. And so we kind of just took that leap, and here we are 7 years later, and the companies are going well, and gotten into some other businesses, and the upside is huge. Love the flexibility, love the lifestyle. I mean, sure, it's a lot of hard work, but I mean, I can go home, our kids got out of school today at 1 for whatever reason, so she's able to just run, get them, and do some different things. I can go to their concerts and plays and go out of town when I need to, and not have a boss and always worrying about your corporate career. It's been fantastic. And so it was, people ask me all the time if I have any regrets. Honestly, my only regret is that I didn't do it sooner. That's my only regret.
It's interesting listening to your like risk analysis, because that's how Tim Ferriss talks about it. He says, hey, when you're going to do something that may border on the wild side or unconventional side, go through this analysis of what the worst case scenario is, but be honest with yourself. Like, a lot of people would do that and it ends with zombies taking over the world. It's like, wait, what? That's not a logical leap to get there, right? And I think when we do it that way, and I think about that a lot. I think like, hey, and I have people ask me, hey, Allan, what if you lost everything? And because I'm diversified quite a bit, it'd be interesting how that would happen. But I'd just start over. Like, I'd live off of nothing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's that bad. But I have a very, very high risk tolerance. And so that's why it comes down to understanding that about us. And this analysis, by the way, goes into it's not just starting a new company or 2 at once, which that is very crazy. But hey, do I want to invest $500,000 into a door-to-door program, or do I want to invest $10,000 into a pay-per-click campaign? You need to go through this analysis of the pros and cons, and for me, it makes me feel better when I say, yeah, that's the worst case scenario. Bring it on.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what they tell gamblers: never bet more than you can afford to lose. Exactly. And so you have to think about that. And I had a teacher at a kind of a mentor when I was growing up, a teacher at my church, and he was a small businessman, owned a medical supply company, and was very successful. And I remember one time he said, if that business burned to the ground and we lost everything, lost our home, lost all our savings, he goes, I would have it all back within 5 years. And when he said that, I was like, oh, you're bragging. No, you wouldn't, you're crazy. But now I believe it, because the knowledge that you get, once you know how to do it and you're not as afraid to take those risks, and it's that drive, and so, that's what I guess I didn't see in this journey, is like how valuable that is, that side of it, and the lessons I've learned along the way. And we all learn from our mistakes, and there's ups and downs, and it's kind of a wild ride, but win or lose, you're gonna have some life experiences and learn some things that are just invaluable.
Yeah.
So
I think it's kind of an interesting thing about the pest control industry, that all the different owners that I run into all have a little bit of a different story, right? Like, some guys have pest control experience as a technician, and that's how you got introduced to the industry. And, you see a difference in how you wish you did the service versus how the current company's doing it. So maybe you branch off, and maybe you had no technician experience. Maybe you're a door-to-door guy. You get a big back-end check, and you're like, man, I want to invest this in my own company, right? And then sometimes you get these other people who kind of did neither, where they weren't a technician, they weren't really in door-to-door sales, but through connections, they talk to somebody and figure out that, hey, pest control is actually a really great opportunity business-wise.
Yeah.
If I could just understand the ins and outs, I could put this thing together and make it roll, Yeah. And I'm probably going to butcher this quote. It's a Theodore Roosevelt quote, but it's the do what you can with what you've got where you are, right? And I feel like in our Facebook groups that I bounce back and forth between, there's just guys that always ask, like, hey, how do I know when I should leave my current company? Like, when do I have enough customers that I can leave my full-time or part-time job? And, what do I do? And sometimes it's just a matter of starting out small and then just letting it pick up from there, and just going, right? Just start, just do it. Yeah. And the whole risk analysis part of it is something that I kind of struggle with, because I'm big into ROI, and I like to look at all the numbers, and sometimes it's, paralysis via analysis, right? I'll just stare at a spreadsheet all day and, kind of wait for that feeling to be like either go or don't. And sometimes I just get stuck in the middle, and I have to force myself just pick one, just make a decision and go with it. It's better to make a decision, and if that decision's wrong, turn around and pivot, than it would be to never make a decision at all.
Absolutely.
Right?
I share that characteristic with you. Sometimes it's hard to, and sometimes it's ready, fire, aim, you just, just go, and then you correct later. And you learn, you learn what your strengths and weaknesses are. And that's one thing about entrepreneurship that you may not get in a corporate job or something. I've gotten to know myself a lot better, and then you can hire for your weaknesses and the things that you're not as passionate about or interested in. And that's how you create a strong company, is by, putting your own talents but you have to understand that you're not going to be as strong on your own as using other people's talents. And it's one lesson that's definitely been learned along the way. But
100%.
Well, Reed, this has been awesome. I keep looking at the clock. I can't believe we're 30 minutes into this. Conversation's been great, taking us on a couple of topics that we haven't really discussed, and I really wasn't planning on going down those roads, but I think they're going to be very helpful to the listener and people trying to build their companies. So if people want to learn more about you, Reed, where should they go?
You can always find me on LinkedIn, or on just good old-fashioned email. Feel free to read.flake@gmail. That's read.flake at gmail. Feel free to reach out. I'm always up for networking, and if anybody has any questions, or love to help people, and maybe help you avoid some of the mistakes I may have made. And I feel like a camaraderie in this industry. I've certainly been the beneficiary of that. Some great people that have helped us along the way. So
for sure.
Happy to.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Reed. Wish you nothing but success, my man.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please show your support by subscribing and leaving us a 5-star rating. Thank you, and we'll catch you on next week's episode.